I'm Gold Derby Senior Editor Denton Davidson, and welcome to our cinematography panel with 2024 Emmy nominees. Joining me now is Gary Baum, a double nominee for Best Cinematography for a multi-camera series, Half Hour for Frasier and How I Met Your Father. Gary, now a 15-time Emmy nominee. So you're the reigning champ. You won last year. You have 3 total. How did you hear about it this year? And is it still as exciting as that very first one you got for Gary Unmarried in 2010?
That was the first nomination in 2010. Yeah, that's crazy. I actually I got a text from my sister who lives out in Long Island, New York, and she's up in all this stuff. And she goes, "Congratulations!" I said, "Well, what?" And then I found out later it was both shows. So it's kind of very, yeah, it's cool. It's a very satisfying this year because we got our category back for multi-camera cinematography. Last year it was combined with single camera half hour because we didn't have enough submissions, and I had to do with shows going to Cafe, which is children's and family. So this year was a great surprise. So that was, well, and we didn't even know if we had that many submissions until the nominations came out. So that was really extra special. So our group got it back this year. So
Yeah, and you've won previously for Mike and Molly and Will and Grace and How I Met Your Father. So what is it about the half-hour multi-camera comedy genre that keeps you coming back and having such great success?
um, you know, uh, it's a very specialized art form. That multi-camera is sort of the basis of TV as we know it. It came across, from I Love Lucy, who um, that show with Lucy and Desi on as they actually solidified the multi-camera comedy. And it's where we have 4 cameras that are shooting at the same time. Basically, we're shooting um, an event. We're shooting. It's a like a Broadway show, but we're shooting it with 4 cameras. So uh, I enjoy comedy. I enjoy laughing. I enjoy the challenge of shooting with 4 cameras and having it look cohesive. So to me, that's all I need really. I started out in single camera as an assistant working on shows like The A-Team and uh, MacGyver and all those kind of shows and Airwolf, and I fell into these. And I said, well, this is kind of a lot of fun, and I'm going to stick with it. So that's that's sort of a long answer to the questions.
Well, if you win this year, it'll be your fourth. You have 3, and the only person with more than you with 4 is Tony Askins. And I understand he's sort of been a mentor to you or was a mentor to you over the years. What would that mean to match him as the all-time leader and be right there next
Oh,
to his name?
well, Tony was a very special human being. He's not with us anymore, but he was my mentor, and he actually that's how I started in this genre. I took a day call as an assistant on one of his shows, and he invited me back the following week, and he said, "You can, you can come back." I go, "Oh, okay, sure." And I was with him for 12 years, and he and James Burrows moved me up to director of photography when on the last season of the first incarnation of Will and Grace. So it's he was a mountain of a human being, and it's an honor just to be following in his example.
And we're focusing on your nomination for Frasier today. And the episode submitted is the season finale, Reindeer Games. So talk a little bit about that episode and why that stands out for you as sort of the highlight of your work this season.
Well, that episode was directed by Kelsey Grammer, and who actually, he learned his craft from, my other mentor, James Burrows, who actually directed, a few of these as well. He was trained by Jimmy via Cheers and Frasier, and we had a lot of different looks on this show. We had our normal set that had to be decorated with Christmas themed, and we had our bar, which is a tavern, Mahoney's, which is another standing set that we had you know, art directed to a Christmas theme as well. So we had some challenges, and I thought visually for me it was one of the episodes that stood out for us. So that's why we picked it.
And there's also a large ensemble in this episode because he's throwing this big Christmas Eve party. So
Right.
does that pose any extra challenges for you when you're working with like a cast of that magnitude on screen all at once?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have four cameras shooting simultaneously. So each camera has um, uh, assignments within the scene. So one camera could have 7 or 8 different kind of shots per scene, or so we'll have like 50 different shots, especially with all the different cast members. You have overs, you have singles, 2 shots. So it poses challenges as far as trying to keep the lighting uniform in a way that when it cuts, it's sort of seamless. And then of course you have shadows to worry about because of the proximity of everybody at a table or people talking to each other. So that those are the main challenges, is to keep it uniform amongst 4 cameras. Yeah.
What was the energy like just returning to Frasier, this series that was so successful in its initial run, and now here we come back with this reboot. What was it like with Kelsey and being on that set that first day?
Oh, it was pretty incredible. It's an iconic show. It's one of the most iconic uh, situation comedies of the 90s and into the 2000s. I mean, you're talking, it was part of the landscape of TV. And as a testament to that, our audience is almost twice as big as a normal audience. So we have an audience which is 295 people, which is like about 100 more than a normal situation comedy, because there's so many fans that wanted to see the show. So on a show night, the feedback that the audience gives to the show is just incredible. I mean, the noise level is just insane. The audience knows what's going to happen, almost, before, it's shown. So it was a very exciting period at that point, to try to make this as good or better than the first one. So that's
And
always.
what's the challenge like for you in particular in that situation where are you trying to sort of make it feel like the original Frasier? Are you bringing in some new elements and like has the technology shifted? Like what challenges does that bring up for you?
Yeah, well, the original series was shot in film by Kenny Lampkin, ASC, and I actually worked on it a couple of times as an operator. So, once you have a show that has changed the dynamic in architecture as far as technology, it's always a challenge. The showrunners and Kelsey wanted the show to look familiar, but understood that it won't be film. So we try to make it as cinematic as possible, and to kind of match not only the intent of situation comedy, but make it feel like we know that this is Frasier. It's not a whole different element. It's a continuation of Frasier. It's his next chapter of his life. So the challenges were, basically 4K versus film. So we've done that before, and it's always fun to get into that.
Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you. I
the
appreciate it.
successful return and good luck at the Emmys this September. We'll be cheering for you.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
I'm Gold Derby Senior Editor Denton Davidson, and welcome to our cinematography panel with 2024 Emmy nominees. Joining me now is Adam Bricker, nominated for Best Cinematography for a single camera series half hour for Hacks. Adam, this is your fourth career nomination, third for Hacks. Talk about hearing that news again. Where you were, who told you, what's that moment like?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Denton, for having me. And I was actually on vacation with my wife and some dear friends traveling abroad when I heard the news. It was the evening where we were when the awards were announced, and we were just coincidentally and conveniently attending a cocktail party. So we had like a fabulous champagne toast, and it was really special. But I'm just so happy for the whole Hacks team with all the nominations, and my crew on the camera and lighting side. Just so happy and thrilled to be recognized.
Yeah, I was gonna say 16 nominations for Hacks this season, including Best Comedy Series, and a lot of people are saying this is the best one yet. I mean, the show just keeps getting better and better. What is it like to be part of this series that's become such a success?
I'm just so lucky, as a cinematographer. You try to do a good work on every project you work on, and you can't really control what happens to them after you shoot them. And we're just so lucky to have this project go out into the world and be received and loved by so many people. Me personally, I feel so lucky to be involved. Scripts that we get from Jen, Paul, and Lucia and the writing team are just fabulous, and it's an honor to work with Gene and Hannah and the whole cast. It's really a dream project, and I'm lucky to play a part in it.
And you submitted the season opener just for laughs. And I want to talk about that opening shot because
Yeah,
I thought
cool.
just it's really cool how you sort of it's this landscape shot, and then we fly down into the hotel driveway as Deborah emerges from the car where we think it's her. And then we follow her through the lobby, and then she turns around and it's this impersonator. And it's sort of like this callback to the series premiere when we got that reveal of Deborah. Talk about that opening shot of season three.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful shot, and it's so many people are involved in making something like that happen that it's impossible for me to take. I played a role in it, but there are so many other people that deserve credit. To be honest, like when I first read the script, and that shot was written right into it. I was a little nervous and maybe skeptical. Like, could we pull this off? Um, and we scouted Las Vegas, and Caesars was just so generous and willing to play ball and kind of help us make this happen. So yeah, it's a wonder without any hidden cuts. We flew drone down the Las Vegas Strip. Um, that was beautifully piloted by Ben Ellingson, and then his fellow drone operator Daniel Perrier was hiding behind a car in the ballet of Caesars. And as the camera sort of flew over the fountain, he sneakily like ran out from behind the car and seamlessly caught the camera and carried it through the casino. We landed at a beautiful set that was designed by our production designer, who's also nominated this season, Rob Tokars. Um, the whole thing just required so many technicians trying to figure out how to make this happen. It was actually the last shot that we did of the season was this opening frame. So we wrapped in Vegas, and there were it was a working casino, so there were a ton of limitations. We weren't Rob and his team weren't able to start building the set until midnight, and then we started rolling, I think, at one. So they had practiced the construction of this with our lighting team and got it all designed. And we did, several takes. And if memory serves, I think, we got maybe 3 hours in, we got one that we loved, and everyone cheered. And it was just like a wonderful way to wrap up several months of shooting the show.
Wow. I was gonna say I've been to Caesar's Palace. It doesn't seem like something that can just shut down for for days. It's
No, I
chaos.
think like some of the background performers are actually people that were there to gamble in the middle of the night. It was a really fun, it was a fun atmosphere. You know, a lot of visual credit, you know, you mentioned that this was sort of a creatively a callback um to the opening of the series in season one. And a lot of the visual credit I think goes to Kathleen Felix Hager, our wonderful costume designer, who put the performer in sort of a seamless reflective um, blazer, a callback to season one. And I think that that does, you know, there's only so much lighting you can do to draw the eye in a oneer like that, where you're starting blocks away and ending at the very end of a casino. And that blazer, I think, really sparkles and draws your attention and really centers and grounds the frame in a wonderful way.
And the series takes place in Las Vegas, and there's a lot you film exterior wise in Las Vegas, but it's a LA based show. I mean, you're in studio here. Talk about balancing that and how you get sort of the seamless look and the equipment or coloring that you have to use to make that all pull together.
Yeah, I think you have to be very, you know, artful and conscientious in your framing. And you know, I work closely with Lucia and Paul, who direct a lot of the episodes to make sure we're framing things in the right way. But then, you know, you got to lean on your collaborators. So Kyle Suker, our wonderful location manager, just does a great job of finding wonderful locations here in Los Angeles that could play as Las Vegas. And then Charlie Panion, our second unit director of photography, will go to Vegas and he'll shoot establishing shots and textures. And I think that his photography is both beautiful, but he does just a great job, I think, of world creation and really creating not, you know, it's not just a show that's set in Las Vegas. It's set in sort of our interpretation of Las Vegas, and then Charlie plays a big role in that. And then we do go to Vegas, and we'll shoot a couple of weeks there. We did a really fun scene this season with Gene on the Strip that was just a trip. And then obviously, you know, flew that drone. So
And you've filmed comedy specials before. You worked on Hannah Einbinder's recent comedy special. So there's a certain style to that. And how do you bring that into the show of Hacks and make it look like really authentic stand-up comedy? Is there a difference in how you film those live performances that Deborah's giving in a big stage versus, them having a private conversation in a hotel room?
yeah, you know, I have filmed comedy specials before, but it's not my area of expertise. And I shot Hannah's special after we wrapped season three, and was honored that she asked me to shoot it, and it was actually really hard and scary and very different than shooting a comedy special on Hacks. You know, it's easier on Hacks because you can break the shots down into different parts and shoot them independently and light each one independently, and trying to figure out on Hannah's actual special how we were going to take multiple cameras and make them all look as beautiful as they were in our minds, but shoot them simultaneously was quite the challenge. For the comedy work on the series Hacks, you know, I try to, you know, look at references and then try as best I can to be expressive with them. So I try to have the lighting and the vibe represent where our characters are in the story. You know, in episode one, just after this drone shot, you see Deborah Vance on stage in sort of a down moment where you realize that she's kind of running through the motions again and unable to connect with the audience in the way that she wants. So the lighting of the special is cooler and a little more sterile and contrastier to sort of reflect that. So I think it's fun in a show when you can play with that and subconsciously affect the mood of the scenes across the series.
What's the biggest challenge for you on a series like Hacks, just in general as a cinematographer? What are those challenges you go into in daily that make you think the hardest and pose the biggest problems?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's these scripts are so fabulous, and just so beautifully written, and these characters are so strong. You want the cinematography to kind of live up to that and meet the moment. And it can be we want the show to be very filmic and expressive and beautiful and like worthy of the words that are written, and that can be a challenge on a condensed television schedule, but you figure it out.
Yeah, well, congratulations, and everyone wants to give Jean Smart the best look she can to do her thing. I mean, she's a legend in the in the business. So congratulations once again on your Emmy nomination, and good luck this September.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome to Gold Derby's cinematography panel with 2024 Emmy nominees. Joining me now is Siggi Rosen-Rawlings, nominated for Best Cinematography for a reality program for the Traitors. Siggi, you're a first timer. Talk to me about hearing that news for the first time and what your reaction was that day.
Yeah, well, it was a massive surprise, to be honest with you. I sort of I couldn't believe it. I mean, I must actually start off by saying I'm not the only DOP nominated from the Traitors. There's also Matt Wright as well. He can't make it today. But yeah, so I got a text message from Gemma Scholes and Ben Archer, the director, and Sam Rhys-Jones and Mike Cotton, the execs, and they were like, "You've been nominated," and I was completely blown away. I think Matt was as well. And it's just been a massive buzz ever since, really.
Well, The Traitors has become such a phenomenon. People love this show. It's full of lies and deceit, and it's hosted by the incredible Alan Cumming. Season 2 was really a breakout season, though, nominated for Best Reality Competition Program, directing, host, and of course, yourself and your colleague. What do you think grabbed attention by the voters this year? I mean, are they just catching up? Is it the fan response? What do you think led to this?
I think it's I think it's the way that it's crafted. I mean, as a director of photography or cinematographer, I work across a lot of different shows, and I'm interested in all of them. But there's something special about the Traitors, and I can say this for like all of the camera department. Every one of us is really invested in the story, so we're following the story as if we were watching it at home. And I'm really glad that's kind of relayed onto camera, because it is fascinating to watch. And when you know who the Traitors are, and they're still meters away from you, it's quite exciting to be part of that. And I think maybe sort of as the wider audience, I think maybe series 1 was good as well. It's really well received, and I think it's just the momentum from that. And also just going back to the way that it's crafted from the sort of producer's point of view, it felt fresh as well. We weren't sort of it felt like a new show in a way. All of the missions were really exciting. The twists and the contestants that they cast as well were amazing. So it was really great fun to work on. Felt like I was watching TV a lot of the time.
And so much of the magic of the show is the location, and it's this beautiful castle. Talk about your first experience getting on location and sort of figuring out how you're going to translate this onto the screen.
So the first recce that I did at the castle, we drove onto the grounds, and you kind of you drive down a tree-lined road, and this castle kind of appears, and the sun was just at the right, it's the right time of day. It was beautifully lit, and it's a really impressive building. There's obviously a huge team behind it as well. It's, Matt Weeks, the production designer, has just done an amazing job. We've got James Tinsley, who runs the lighting department. So there's a lot of people involved. It was slightly daunting at first, because it's a big castle, and it's a reality show. So you want to make it look like a movie, but it's also you're only getting one take a lot of the time. So we worked as a team to kind of make that work, and yeah, hopefully it kind of does, doesn't it? But that's because of the team effort.
Well, the episode submitted was The Funeral, which is this great episode where everyone's walking in sort of a death parade, trying to figure out who's going to be murdered by the end of it. And you've got this horse and carriage and incredible costumes. Talk about filming that and why that to you stands out as maybe the best representation of the cinematography this season.
Yeah, so myself and Matt, we spent ages trying to figure out which episode to put forward. And because they're all really good, and the stories are all really good and they're exciting and visually exciting to watch. But there was something about this episode that we both agreed it just had an edge to it. The darker twist to it and the logistics of it as well. Like myself and Matt had to leapfrog the locations to make sure that we could cover it. I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's all shot in real time. We keep the contestants in an immersive bubble, so it's like a real day for them. So when they're doing that march, that's in real time. There's no stopping, holding them up at one spot whilst we get a crew ahead to receive them or anything like that. It's all choreographed by us and the team to make sure that we can cover that whole walk in one go. So when they get to the graveyard, that tension that they're feeling is as real as it can get. So we felt like this was a challenge for us, and it ended up looking quite nice. So we thought this would be the episode to put forward.
What is the secret to filming this show that's so full of big personalities? I mean, you got to catch everything and make sure you're not missing moments. They're running all over the castle. I mean, how are you able to capture all of these things and really cover that much ground when especially in the early stages before the cast gets, murdered?
Yeah. So we have myself and Matt included, we have 12 cameras that can be operated, and we have a couple of other guys we can bring in, like the jib operator, and we have another operator who we can bring in for certain scenes. So sometimes it can be up to 14, 15, 16 cameras. So that, like on episode 1, when everyone arrives for the first time outside the castle, that's all of us shooting that, and that again is pretty much one take. Within the castle, we have the whole fixed rig set up, so all of the fixed camera positions that are kind of rolling all of the time. So if there are moments in a corridor or in a nook or cranny somewhere that we can't get to in time, you've got a hothead, a remote camera that can pick that up. So there's a whole team focusing on that as well in the gallery. The other main thing that we do is we're following the story. So I like to speak to the team and get them to get involved in the story, to try and think about it editorially as well. So if you notice, someone doing a bit of a side eye towards another contestant, you could start to follow that as a character, as a storyline. So what I say to our camera team is we're kind of part of the game. We're part of the game. We're part of the immersive experience. We don't make eye contact with them. We don't speak to them or anything like that. But we're constantly around them and part of their experience there. So we're all kind of tuned into the stories.
And once you're comfortable in the castle, I'm guessing, I mean, the daily challenges have to be quite challenging for you because those are changing all the time and you're going to different locations. What's the biggest challenge about that, and just how much time do you get to prepare for that? But how much time ahead do you know, okay, this is what they're doing today and we need to figure out how we're gonna chase them around?
So there's a reality element to it that is completely kind of out of our hands. That's usually when they come back from a mission or prior to a mission. We always know that they'll be going to a mission at a certain time. So that's sort of forward planned. And Matt Matt Wright will be forward planning that ahead. So he'll have figured out how they'll cover that event, that mission. But then anything could happen at that mission. It could all go sideways. But what we have to do is kind of just be prepared to kind of to be adaptive and follow stories. It can be quite challenging, but once you're tuned into it, it might sound a bit funny, but once you're fully tuned into it, you can almost second guess what people are. You can try and guess what people are going to do, and you can put yourself in that position to cover that story. And obviously, you've got a whole editorial team in the background who are constantly monitoring things and making sure that storylines aren't getting missed.
And you've worked on a number of reality TV shows in your career. What is it about reality TV that keeps you coming back? What's the most exciting thing about that for you?
I think with what I love about the Traitors specifically is that it's like the drama of it. It's kind of like we're shooting a movie in a day, so with a really tight schedule. But it's exciting to follow that story. And I think with reality TV, you're always like following stories, and I find that quite interesting. So I'm quite into the editorial side of things. I find it really interesting to document what people are doing. I do documentary work as well. So I think it's my sort of passion for documentaries as like a viewer is what sort of led me into shooting reality TV shows. And I like to sort of bring that, as I say, like bring that editorial kind of brain to what I do as well, rather than just a sort of point and shoot type of person.
Well, such a great show. Quick one word response. Traitor or faithful? What are you gonna go? What would you want to be in the house?
I absolutely want to be a faithful.
All right.
I don't think I could cope with being a traitor. It's quite tense filming it sometimes. Yeah, I mean, like it's as you know from watching the show, it's surprising how well some people take to being a traitor as well, and being able to kind of try and trick people. So yeah, I definitely.
Congratulations again on the Emmy nominations, and we'll be rooting for you in September, and we hope you win.
Thanks so much for having me, and it was a pleasure to listen to everyone else as well. Really enjoyed that. So thanks for having me.
I'm Gold Derby Senior Editor Denton Davidson, and welcome to our cinematography panel with 2024 Emmy nominees. Joining me for this roundtable are Emmy nominees Gary Baum from Frasier, Adam Brick from Hacks, and Siggi Rosen-Rawlings from The Traitors. It's great to have you all here, and I just want to start out asking, what inspired you to get into this line of work as cinematography? Because, I mean, I remember being a kid, I loved movies and TV, but it was acting, directing, that's what we see. So how did you sort of discover this as a career opportunity? And then what really led to that big break? Gary, maybe I'll start with you.
Well, that's pretty easy. I've always been interested in photography and always had a camera in my hand. And one day in high school, I was coming off the train station, and I saw a lot of lights and cameras, and I said, "What are you guys shooting?" And the guy said, "It's called The French Connection." And I said, "Oh, all right, whatever." So the next 3 days, a buddy of mine and myself, we were watching the iconic chase scene down, in Coney Island, the train station, which was Bay 50th, which was our train station, the killing on the steps. And I was just intrigued. I said, well, I didn't realize this was something that I could, this was an opportunity. I never saw, a film crew before, So fast forward, moved to Los Angeles a few years later. I took a class at UCLA. It was a writing class with Nat Perrin, and who's a famous screenwriter, Marx Brothers, a lot of comedy. And he introduced me to a cinematographer named Joe Rutenberg, Academy Award winner. And we struck up of conversation. And make a long story short, I worked at Panavision for a while, and then I got a job over at, Lorimar, which is an MGM loading film. So I kind of came up, that way, kind of traditional from the bottom up. But basically, that's how I got into the business. It was just a chance location shoot that I just and I met the cinematographer after the fact, Owen Roisman, at the time, and we had I worked with him a little bit, but it was just one of those things, it's just fate, I guess.
Adam, what about you? What sort of inspired you to get into this field?
Yeah, when I was a kid, my dad got a new job and we relocated from Chicago to New Jersey. I have three younger sisters, and my mom, to sort of get us acclimated into our new community, enrolled us in a community theater. And I enjoyed acting in the plays, but I was most into the guy that would come at the end of the run and film the play and distribute the VHS tapes to all the performers to buy. And I wanted that job. So I went to film school. I went back to Chicago, and then one summer, a friend of mine was traveling to Los Angeles to go to the summer program at USC at the film school. And I tagged along, and he was interested in photography and had enrolled in the advanced cinematography class. And it was my first time in California, and it was on a soundstage with big lights and 35 millimeter cameras. And I was just like totally hooked and caught the bug. Transferred to USC and finished film school there. And then, just started hustling and working as a cinematographer.
Siggi, how about you? How did you end up in this situation?
Well, my mum was a feminist filmmaker, so I was always there were always cameras in my house. So there were some very early video cameras. So I kind of had that around me. I didn't have like a dream of becoming a cinematographer. I wanted to be a music producer or a DJ. But I went to university. I studied film as well, and I sort of like if your parent was a carpenter, I think I sort of went down the kind of family tradition and ended up working in television as a runner. I still didn't have any aspirations of becoming a cinematographer, but I started to see what people did on set and understand what they were doing. And I just had a natural, I was drawn to the camera department. And so kind of worked my way up through the camera department, did a lot of entertainment television and music-based shows and documentaries over the years. So yeah, sort of, that's kind of how I got into it. It was a long road.
And Gary, you've had this decades-long career now. We talked a little bit about that in your one-on-one interview. Is there something in your career that you have yet to do that you just would like to dabble in? If you had to do something other than, the multicam comedy, what would you want to do? Just maybe for a day, just to dip your foot in.
Well, I've always been attracted to the noir side of filmmaking. Every time I get an opportunity to shoot something in that nature, like on a swing set or a story point, I really enjoy that. So I think for a day or a week or whatever it takes, I would like to shoot some sort of a noir, black and white show. I just love that hard light and shadows, and I don't get a chance to do that with my work. So I think that would be a good outlet for me, and I still do that in my own photography. So that's sort of like my release point. But I still would like to do that, and I'd like to shoot film again one day. So that would be, we don't shoot film in multi-camera, so it's all 4K now.
And Adam, I know you got your first Emmy nomination for, you know, like a cooking nonfiction series. So like what kind of thing have you not branched out to yet that maybe you want to try once?
Yeah, I think yeah, that was for Chef's Table, which is a show that we're still doing. I think it's interesting. Like as a young, ambitious cinematographer, I think you wanna do something you haven't done before, and something new. I don't know exactly what that would be. It's like I've just embarking on the starting on the fourth season of Hacks, and I think really digging into that. So I'm excited to continue that journey and tell that story. And then I think after that it'll probably be something that isn't a comedy, or just like what the next thing you want it to be different than what you've done previously.
And see, how about you, other than maybe stepping behind the DJ booth?
Well, do you know what? I'm a really big fan of Gary and Adam's work, so I'd love to do any kind of comedy stuff. I've done bits of comedy in the past, but I love working on. I've loved working on comedy shows. What I love about being a director of photography, cinematographer, is how varied things can be. So I'd love to shoot. I've not shot a feature film yet. I'd love to shoot a feature film. I'd love to shoot more documentaries, music videos. I love the kind of the fact that you can do so many different things in a week or a month. So yeah, I'd like to do what these guys are doing.
And Adam, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about cinematographers? Maybe people that aren't in the business or aren't behind the cameras all the time. That, I mean, I hear some that's like they don't really understand who's deciding the shots. Is it the cinematographer or the director? They don't know the difference between director of photography and cinematographer. There's all these questions. What for you is like one of the misconceptions people have about your work that you would like to clear up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it can take many different, there are tons of different definitions, and that's appropriate. I think, it's a collaborative art form, which is what makes it fun. So there's not, one person designing the shot. It's myself and the director and our camera operators all collaborating. Same with the lighting. It's, I'm collaborating not just with the gaffer and the key grip, but sometimes with the production designer. So it is a collaborative art form, and the role can be different, based on what suits the project best.
Siggi, how about you?
Misconception. I mean, just going back to what Adam was saying, it's definitely a team effort. There's not one person making the show, and that it's really important that people can work together and work well together and are collaborative. One of the other misconceptions maybe is how long it takes to shoot a reality show or an episode, and how fast paced it can be as well. On the Traitors especially, it's really fast, and that's part of this immersive bubble that we're trying to create. So yeah, maybe I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah. And Gary, how about you? Have you ever had to go to battle with a director in all your decades? How many fights have you gotten in when a shot's supposed to?
Just one, but it wasn't relating to the show. That was a while back. But to everybody's point, I'd like to consider myself a cinematographer. Like a famous interview with Vittorio Storaro. He always rejected that term, director of photography, because it's a misnomer. I'm not directing anything. He says, I'm cinematographer. And what everybody's saying, Adam and Siggi, is like, it's a collaborative effort. We're there to push along the vision of the showrunner or the director, and any way we can help is our job, I think. So, to that point, for me personally, I consider myself a lighting cameraman, because, like the English style, because I don't really, as a multi-camera, we don't really get into each shot because it'll be impossible. That's the director and the operators work very closely together, and I'm there to facilitate all of that. So in that respect, yes, I think the cinematographer acronym is more apropos for, like, I think what we do. You know, I'm listening to Adam and Siggi, and for sure, you know, it's a collaborative effort. So anyway, I want to say that I watched Hacks, the clip, and from the Emmy submissions, and it was incredible. I really enjoyed
Oh,
that.
thank you, Gary.
And
Thank you.
Siggi, I have to watch Traitors. So
Yeah. Well, it's
I
addictive.
haven't seen it, to be very honest, but now I have to look at it.
A
So
lot of people have it. Once you start, you sort of can't stop.
yeah,
Just
it's on.
just going back to
I
the.
bookmarked it.
Okay, yeah, make sure you watch it.
Okay.
Just come back to the director of photography and the cinematography question. So I might not have answered it properly, but in the UK, we don't tend to be called cinematographers if we're working on a reality show. And we used to be called lighting cameramen or lighting camera operators. Then it became DOP probably about 10 years ago, when we all started getting called DOP. But now maybe we'll all start getting called cinematographers as well, because I like the name.
Gary,
And that's
can I ask? Sorry, just a quick question about the multi-cam approach that was. You guys can cut this out if it isn't interesting, but I was just curious. Like, do you tend to prioritize a shot for lighting, or do you treat them all equally, or how do you sort of approach that when you're tasked with covering so many angles at once?
Well, you know, basically, in the traditional sense of the word of multi-camera, like Frasier, the other show I was working on, How I Met Your Father, was more of a hybrid. So we go out a lot and do, but on a set, it's shot basically proscenium style. So you have 4 cameras in your 3-wall set. So the approach basically is we have to light the set first, and then we have to watch a rehearsal to see where the actors go, and then we fine tune it from there. So that's the first thing, and we can't use any fixtures, any lights on the floor, because the cameras are constantly moving. You know, you'll have 40 moves in a scene with 4 cameras, and that's about average. So we can't have anything on the floor. So everything is lit from the grid or above. So that's the challenge of that, and that's the approach. We have to use back key crosses and some fill. And I mean, you're welcome to come to my set anytime. So you too, Siggi. I mean, we can.
I'll take you up on that offer. It sounds
Okay, you
fascinating.
should. Yeah, I'd love for you to come down. And then I do carry some OB lights on my camera. Each camera has
cool.
a LED OB light that we've designed for certain things. You know, get out of certain jams. You know, if the actors don't hit their marks, or they change blocking on the fly, which sometimes they do, you know, in a live situation. And, you know, you really don't have the luxury to relight the set. You know, you have to wing it. So I
I
hope that
imagine it's
answers.
quite the symphony with the 4 cameras moving around, and I assume there's lighting cues involved in the whole thing. It's got to be
Absolutely.
a
There's
thrill.
lighting, right. It's a ballet. We call it a ballet.
I
You
love
know, there's lighting cues, there are dolly cues. An operator and assistant will have probably, I'm just being, you know, general, on a 3-minute scene, a 4-page scene, you'll have 10 or 12 marks, you know, not on the dolly, but on the lens. You know, we use zoom lenses, and you know, the operator will have, you know, different assignments. So it's you know, it's a rehearsal, it's a ballet. Yes, it's definitely a symphony.
There's a little bit of that on Hacks, but not to that degree. It's a single camera approach, but it's a 3-camera show, and you know, we're very ambitious at trying to fit them all in. Nowhere near what you're pulling off, but you know, our lead camera operator, Joel Marsh, built a little system where on his hand shoulder mount he can communicate with the other cameras to shift over left and right, and it's fun watching them all vibe together to capture the right angle.
Yeah, it's definitely an art, and it's definitely something you have to rehearse. People don't realize that. So it's definitely definitely something like you haven't seen before. I understand. Yeah, that's really cool. Anyway, your show looks great, and I'm like I said, Siggi, and I really have to tune in and watch that. So
Gary, you mentioned inviting them to your set, and I'm
yeah,
just going to piggyback
yeah.
off that a little bit. How important is mentorship in this business, especially in something like cinematography and a lot of these behind the scenes set jobs? How important is it to get that mentor, to get that next break, to get to the point where you are a director of photography, which all of you have been
Um,
able to achieve?
yeah, I've retuned my approach the last few years, and as far as giving back, like I'm not done yet in any sense of the word, but I've through the ASC I've mentored some people, and people come like for instance we're over at Paramount shooting Frasier, and one of the pages came up to me. She does all the tours and whatnot, and she says, "Hey, do you mind if I ask you some questions?" And I go, "No, sure." And she was a student at UCLA and USC, excuse me, in cinematography, and she's very young. And I was really intrigued about how the questions she was asking, and we try to help everybody along, and I always tell my operators and my assistants, pay attention to, what we're doing, like I did, I always paid attention to lighting because I was always attracted to that. So you're always paying attention to someone else's job in a way because it makes your job better. Plus, what goes on for the next, your next, step in your career, so you're not just, flying blind, and another an addendum to that, I was mentored too. So, by, Tony Askins and John C. Flynn the third, and you were encouraged to, pay attention, and that's the key. And since I came up through the ranks, I know everybody's job. I'm not going to ask an operator or ask an assistant do something that can't be done. I know it could be done, or if there's something that can't be done, I know it can't be done. So in that it goes both ways. So I'm constantly learning as well. On the set, you're always learning something new. So, but I think taking somebody under your wing or talking to people who are really interested in doing what you're doing is key to their involvement and their progression, and it's also key to your own. I feel a lot better when I'm helping somebody along. To be honest, it just makes me proud that someone else is doing something that that they want to do.
And Siggy, what about you? What do you wish you would have known your first day on set that you were just clueless about, that now you're thinking, okay, now if I would have only known this, what's something that you would be able to share with your younger self?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. I started operating in 2003, so and my memory is not that great. Maybe probably as we were just talking about, paying more attention to lighting, probably, I think, from the beginning. I was shooting kind of entertainment, kind of news, really. And I didn't get a chance to get my hands on lighting until much later. When I did, I started to really pay attention to it. But I was often on set, shooting behind the scenes on big movies or music videos, and I didn't pay any attention to the lighting. I was too focused on getting the coverage for the director. But yeah, I think getting into lighting maybe at an earlier stage would have been useful.
And Adam, just to sort of close things off, what's one of your biggest lessons you've learned at this stage of your career? And you're still learning too. As we see,
Yeah,
you
of
got a million
course.
questions, Gary. We love that.
Yeah. No, I think that it's just really important, as a cinematographer to sort of trust your instincts and creatively, just trust yourself. The story that I tell about starting Chef's Table, prior to that show, I'd never shot food before, so it's like you just kind of go into it and trust yourself and figure out your own unique way of shooting it, and have the confidence in that. And I think that that's how sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes you come up with something unique and special. And then in terms of mentorship, great to hear what Siggi and Gary are saying. I second all of that. I've been lucky and honored to be invited to join the ASC this year, and being around these ASC cinematographers, many of whom are people that I have looked up to for a long time, seen in magazines. Very scary for me to like interact with some of these people, but everyone has just, I've found that everyone has just been so nice and really willing to share. And it's just, the cinematography community is a very supportive one. So I'd encourage young cinematographers to reach out. Cinematographers love talking about cinematography. Our emails aren't hard to find. So reach out, and it's fun.
Well, listen, Gary, Adam, Siggi, congratulations to all of you once again on your Emmy nominations for Frasier, How I Met Your Mother as a secondary, and then Hacks and The Traitors. Such a fun panel, and thanks for joining us, and good luck to all of you. You're not competing with each other, so I can legitimately say I hope you all win.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet you all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.